The Galactic Concord summit hovered above the molten world of Kef-9, suspended in a neutral orbit station built from shimmering black glass and draped in peace banners no one believed in. Inside the Grand Hall, beneath banners stitched with 1,000 dialects for coexistence, the most powerful species in the known galaxy paraded their finest robes, tusks, antennae, and egos. And there stood the humans, late arrivals, all smiles, dressed in quiet black. General Thomas Callahan, Earth's chief diplomatic liaison, nodded politely as he stepped to his assigned platform. 47, square-jawed and stoic, he wore his military blues like a second skin. Silver streaks at his temples betrayed the years, but his posture remained unbent by grief, war, or boredom. When he smiled, it was patient, like a man waiting for a fuse to burn down. "Human," muttered one of the wrecks, bulbous eyes blinking with disdain. "The one who uses cutlery." Callahan heard. He simply turned and gave a nod that somehow felt like a funeral. The diplomatic proceedings were half theater, half farce. The Utari sovereign pontificated about trade routes. The Gruxy delegation snorted through their neck slits whenever someone spoke of values. Everyone had come prepared to grandstand and quietly mock the pink-skinned mammals who rose from dirt and still worshipped family dinners. Human presence was tolerated, barely. Respected? Not quite. Feared? Not yet. Callahan stood still, hands clasped behind his back, eyes calm. Behind him on a private hollow panel flickered a muted feed. His wife Anna, sitting on a porch back on Earth. Windswept hair. Cup of tea. Barefoot in the garden. She glanced toward the camera once and smiled, soft, genuine, the kind of smile that held entire decades in it. The alien next to him snorted again. "Strange, your species. So sentimental." Callahan tilted his head. "Well, sir, love's one of the last weapons you can't confiscate." Before the alien could reply, the chamber lights dimmed. The master channel had taken over, a mandatory transmission used for shared declarations. Everyone turned toward the hologrid above, expecting another tedious announcement. Instead, 3 feeds crackled to life. They were home feeds, private, unauthorized. Each one showed the wife of a human general. Anna Callahan in her garden. Elise Ruiz in a kitchen, stirring broth. Meeta Banerjee putting a child to sleep. And then strangers appeared behind them. Clad in robes of black flame and bone helmets, the figures moved like smoke. Alien tongues chanted something guttural. On the feeds, the women turned, but didn't scream. The deaths were swift, ritualistic. Anna was the first, her tea spilled, her throat opened with a blade etched in Threenix glyphs. Elise collapsed with a crimson bloom across her chest. Meeta clutched her child, shielding him until the final second. No warning, no noise but the transmission hum. The galaxy watched as Earth's dignity was butchered in real time. Gasps rippled through the hall. A tentacled ambassador recoiled. The Vrex diplomat coughed on his own bile. Callahan didn't move. He didn't blink. The feeds flickered out. Silence followed, thick as war smoke. The Utari sovereign cleared his throat, voice trembling. This is not sanctioned. We must investigate." Callahan turned. "Don't bother." Another alien murmured. We didn't authorize this. It's likely a rogue faction." "I understand," Callahan said, calm as prayer. 3 rogue blades. 3 homes ruined. Accidents happen. He reached into his coat and pulled out a handkerchief. Blotted his lips. Requesting immediate departure under Earth's mourning protocol. "Of course, yes of course," someone stammered. Callahan turned to the Galactic Concord's central dais. "Please note the timestamp of this broadcast." "Why?" the Utari asked. Callahan's eyes were unreadable. "Because someday someone will ask when the war truly began. And we'll want to be precise." The doors hissed open. He walked out, boots echoing on obsidian tile, his shoulders never slouching once. Across the galaxy, the news exploded like a solar flare. Feeds looped the footage, then took it down. Commentary flooded. Cowardly act, cultural misunderstanding, potential human overreaction. Analysts debated Earth's likely military options. Most concluded that humans were too emotional to retaliate effectively. Others suggested they might withdraw from galactic affairs altogether. Earth, however, said nothing. For 6 days. No broadcasts. No retaliation. Not even a condemnation. The silence was worse than any declaration. On the 7th day, the Gruxy Navy attempted a casual flyover of the Martian expanse, standard patrol, meant to test human resolve. They never arrived at their checkpoint. What came instead was a single pod, charred silent. Inside it, a Gruxy captain, eyes wide, hand severed, clutching a human chess piece. A pawn. Underneath, it was a note. Your move. Aliens began whispering. Meetings were called. Fleets scrambled. But no formal human presence could be found. Earth remained quiet. General Callahan reappeared briefly, hosting a brunch with a few neutral diplomats. He served black coffee and cornbread, wore a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. When asked about the assassinations, he said, "Every war begins with the death of something sacred. Sometimes it's ideals. Sometimes it's people." One Utari asked nervously, "Is Earth planning a military response?" Callahan stirred sugar into his coffee. "We're pacifists," he said softly. "Until we're not." They laughed nervously. He didn't. That night, across 37 alien strongholds, motionless satellites powered on. Satellites no one had seen launched. No beams, no noise. Just a soft blue blinking, pulsing in sync with Earth's moon. And on the 8th day, the human feeds returned. But not with speeches. No faces. Just a single line of text. "You brought war to our homes. We will show you what that means." Alien networks began glitching. Power grids blinked. Data centers showed signs of old Earth code embedded deep, hidden for years dormant. Someone finally asked aloud what no one wanted to say, "When did they plant this?" No one had an answer. Some said humans had been planning all along. Others insisted it was emotional rage. But those who knew Callahan, who had sat with him in those polite silences, started to whisper a different fear. That the humans hadn't lost control. They had waited. And now the world had given them permission. On Kef 9, as embassies scrambled and paranoia bloomed, the peace banners were quietly taken down. In a distant field outside Callahan's now empty home, the wind blew through the blood-stained grass. A teacup lay cracked in the dirt. An origami bird fluttered beside it, unfolding in the wind. And from somewhere unseen, a voice whispered into the stars. "We bury our dead with silence, but we avenge them with fire." The Vrex Republic Skywatch Division logged Earth silence as both anomaly and threat. Across the galaxy, intelligence briefings grew paranoid, peppered with words like calculated, unsettling, and predatory patience. The humans had gone utterly still. No rebuttals. No retaliation. No requests. Not even a single meme. Diplomatic cables from Earth were curt, formal, polite to the point of menace. On the 11th day after the broadcasted killings, a Scari infiltrator, trained in stealth since larval phase, was dispatched to Earth. His mission, observe, report, and, if necessary, provoke. His handler warned him, "If they look like prey, do not believe it." He arrived above the American Midwest during twilight, mist curling over empty cornfields like forgotten breath. He hovered unseen in orbit, studying the cities below. They were too quiet. Civilian streets were still populated. People walked dogs, children laughed, coffee was still brewed. But something had shifted beneath the rhythm. Soldiers didn't march. They watched. Subterranean scanners picked up deep movement. Trains with no surface tracks humming beneath. Above ground, Earth looked unchanged. Below, it pulsed with readiness. The infiltrator reported in. No overt military mobilization. But they are not grieving. "What then?" his commander asked. "They're waiting." That same day, General Callahan stepped onto the marble floors of the Galactic Concorde once more. He came alone, in dress uniform, polished boots gleaming like still water. His presence was requested for a clarifying dialogue. He arrived 10 minutes early, Chancellor Threx of the Utari Empire, began the meeting with pre-scripted condolences and babbling excuses, blame shifting to rogue cults, misinterpreted rituals, outdated codes of war. Callahan listened with patient detachment, as though he were indulging a child's bedtime lie. When they finally finished, he simply asked, "May I speak plainly?" The council nodded, albeit uneasily. "We know who ordered the killings," Callahan said. "We know the ship. We know the crest. We have its schematics, crew logs, even their food preferences." Threx stammered, "But your intelligence can't have." Callahan gently set down a slim device. A 3D projection spun to life. A Vrex transmission intercept, full color, authenticated, date-stamped. Silence settled like dust on an empty coffin. "We're not here to debate facts," he continued. "We're here to assess intentions. Yours and ours." "And what are your intentions, General?" asked the Trillax ambassador. Callahan gave a small, courteous smile. "We intend to complete what someone else started." The room chilled, though the temperature never changed. One of the Corthan war barons, thick with scars and crowned in bone, leaned forward. "You speak boldly for a man who buries wives in dirt and silence." Callahan met his gaze. "I buried her with a folded flag and my last good smile. The dirt is Earth's. The silence was mine. The rest belongs to fire." The Corthan, twice Callahan's size, blinked first. Outside the chamber, Earth's embassies began quietly evacuating their human staff. Not with alarm, no sirens, no emergency beacons, but with the steady, practiced rhythm of an evacuation drill rehearsed for years. Files vanished. Servers were wiped. Windows were closed with care, as if tucking the building in for its last night. No broadcasts explained this. The galaxy was left to speculate. A Gruxy journalist called it the world's calmest declaration of war. A Vrex admiral privately called it the quiet before a human thunderclap. One civilian alien posted, "They aren't retaliating. They're reconfiguring." On day 14, the first confirmed loss hit the Utari's central defense hub. Not a missile, not an explosion, a data collapse. The entire artificial intelligence matrix governing their planetary shields simply forgot how to run. For 72 seconds, their planet sat vulnerable. Then a single line of code scrolled across their emergency mainframe. "This is your grace period. Thank your dead." Investigations revealed no malware, no breach, no cyberattack. Just one recoded logic loop, written in an obsolete Earth programming language, COBOL. When a Utari technician asked what that was, the analyst whispered, "Something from the era when they hadn't even left their moon." In a briefing on the Concorde's military floor, alien commanders demanded to know who on Earth was coordinating this soft strike. The answer came in the form of intercepted correspondence, short, handwritten, and mailed physically. "To whom it may concern. If you're reading this, I've already taught the machines how to forget you. The next lesson is pain. Sincerely, Thomas Callahan." "Is this real?" the Trillax envoy asked, voice thin. "Yes," murmured the Gruxy aide. "And worse, it's polite." By the 20th day, fear eclipsed mockery. The phrase Callahan Protocol was whispered across star bases and diplomatic corridors. Some said it referred to a final weapon. Others said it meant every move the humans made was 10 steps ahead. Then the unexpected happened. Earth requested a summit. The invitation came folded inside a red envelope. No electronic transmissions. No military escort. Inside, a handwritten card. "To those who remain civilized. Join us for tea. 1 seat per species. Come unarmed. Location, Station Solace." Solace was a neutral moon station once used for treaties that never held. Now it was abandoned, cold, forgotten. Still, they came. 9 species. 9 ambassadors. 9 different flavors of dread. Callahan greeted each one personally. Not with soldiers or threats, but with warm eye contact and handshakes. He wore a suit. No weapon was visible, but no one doubted he was armed. They sat at a long wooden table, surrounded by rusted walls and the hum of forgotten treaties. Porcelain teacups steamed with oolong, jasmine, and earth-grown mint. Callahan poured for each of them. "Why tea?" one alien asked. "Because coffee is for plotting," he said. "Tea is for telling you, I'm already done plotting." They sipped. Most tasted nothing but heat and fear. "We didn't mean to provoke war," said the Utari. "We didn't mean to watch our wives die," said Callahan. The Korthan Baron leaned forward, voice grave. "What do you want, human?" Callahan set down his cup, folded his hands, and looked at them one by one. "Every empire has its crucible. We all suffer a wound before we define ourselves. You've seen our wound. Now, let me introduce our definition." He reached under the table and pressed a single button. Across the galaxy, at that precise moment, dormant satellites bloomed into life, silent, black specks blinking awake like 1,000 open eyes. Each one nestled deep in orbit around alien strongholds, each one previously dismissed as space junk or human tech debris. None were military. None were armed. Until now, every single alien at the table received a ping on their private neural channels. A live feed opened. It showed their home planets, magnified, tracked, vulnerable. And then the voice of Callahan echoed across the feeds. "We don't conquer. We remember. And we place our memory where you forget to look." Some of the aliens began to stand. Callahan raised a hand. "This is not a declaration. This is a courtesy." The feeds cut. He stood slowly, buttoned his jacket, and gave a small, apologetic smile. "If there's any comfort," he said, "this isn't about victory. It's about the cost of cruelty. You showed us yours. Now you'll see ours." As he turned to leave, one alien blurted, "What happens if we apologize?" Callahan paused. "Then you'll understand the difference between peace and permission." Outside, the stars pulsed. Solace hummed. On Earth, an old piano played in a quiet home. In a room with folded flags, a boy slept with his mother's scarf clutched to his chest. And in the orbit above 30 alien worlds, human satellites began their slow rotation, silent, patient, and now awake. The skies above Rex Prime turned amber just before midnight. Not the color of war, yet, but the kind of hush that slipped over a world before it remembered something it had tried to forget. An old fear, the taste of metal in the back of the throat, stirred. In orbit, a Gruxy patrol cruiser picked up a signal. Nothing hostile, nothing fast, just music, human music, crackling through static. Some long-dead broadcast station had found its breath again. A gravel voice sang in slow, rolling drawl. Musical note, "I hurt myself today to see if I still feel." Musical note. Then silence. Then the feed cut out entirely. At 0300 local standard time, every fire alarm on Vrex Prime rang in perfect unison. All of them. Homes, hangars, military silos, ambassadorial suites. A synthetic scream that lasted for exactly 38 seconds before vanishing like it had never happened. When technicians checked the files, there was no trace, no origin, no code. Just a single line left deep in the architecture. "Wake up." Across the galaxy, that was when it began. Operation Housefire. It didn't look like a war. It looked like confusion, like static, like cities locking their own gates. Power outages in capital districts. Deep vaults in alien banks blinking open as if on command. Luxury spacecraft exploding in their docks, later discovered to be seeded with Earth-made plasma mines, smuggled in pieces over decades as coffee grinders and museum art. On the third night, the Korthan Temple of Lineage fell from orbit. Not bombed. It simply lost all thrust. Gravity failed. Hundreds of years of bloodline memory drifted into the atmosphere like glittering dust. In the center of it all, in an underground bunker 3 miles beneath Greenland, General Callahan sat at a wooden desk and stirred his tea. Around him, the best Earth minds moved like dancers, coders, linguists, tacticians, and poets, all trained in the art of asymmetrical grace. The control room pulsed with quiet coordination. No yelling, no red alerts, only whispers, buttons, and purpose. A junior officer approached, nerves twitching. "Sir, satellite feed confirms Trillax archive collapse. Estimated data loss, 80%. No life signs detected." Callahan nodded once. The officer hesitated. "Sir, should we issue a statement?" "No," Callahan replied. "Let them write their own panic." Meanwhile, across alien sectors, something stranger than war was happening. Fear. And not the kind bred by bombs. The Gruxy Empire deployed an emergency fleet toward Earth's moon, expecting resistance. They found it deserted. Until one by one, their command vessels shut down. Entire systems rebooted in old Earth code, DOS, basic Fortran. Obsolete languages none of their AI could parse. Their ships lit up with one message, emblazoned on every screen. Your world was built on arrogance. Ours was built on backups. Then the countdowns began. Not nuclear. Worse. Broadcasts. Human history poured into alien minds, unfiltered, uncut. Tragedies and rebirth. Holocausts and Harlem. Hiroshima. Gettysburg. 9/11. The Dust Bowl. Vietnam. Waco. Sandy Hook. BLM. January 6th. The Challenger exploding with teachers on board. And with every horror, survival. Resilience through madness. A race that mourned by building museums and fought by writing blues. Aliens choked on our memory. In a command post on Veladrix, a Zothari general, a veteran of 40 campaigns, watched footage of a human soldier carrying his bleeding brother across a minefield. One leg gone, still smiling. The Zothari dropped his weapon. "This isn't strategy," he whispered. "It's mythology." Back on Earth, in Callahan's war room, a screen lit up with a coded message from a sleeper agent embedded on the Gruxy High Council. The message came in 2 words. "They're breaking." Callahan said nothing. But across from him, an older man chuckled. General Rick Harrison, recently recalled from retirement. Tennessee twang intact. "You ever seen a house burn slow?" Harrison drawled. "Fire don't start in the roof. It starts in the walls. Quiet like. And by the time you smell it, it's already home." He took a drag from a cigar. "What we're doing, Tom, ain't a war. It's a reckoning." They nodded to each other. No fanfare. Then the second phase began. Phase 2 wasn't destruction. It was displacement. Entire alien communication arrays rerouted through Earth's oldest satellites, the analog ones, still orbiting since the 20th century, thought to be dead metal. Their signals now carried viruses crafted to feel like language, scripts that seduced rather than scrambled. The Gruxy Central AI, responsible for navigation across 12 systems, developed a stutter, then a stammer. Then it began reciting lines from Shakespeare. The Rex Planetary Defense AI declared, "Error, unresolved grief detected." Then it turned off their missiles. None of it made sense. Which was the point? When aliens sent reconnaissance teams to Earth, they found farmland blooming with sunflower fields over missile silos. Retired Marines teaching children how to fish. Old women knitting flags with 3 stars, one for each fallen wife. But beneath that peace was planning. Alien spies were apprehended by elementary school janitors. Ambassadors failed to notice the chessboards left in their quarters were arranged in endgames. It wasn't just Earth's generals who wanted revenge. It was the grandmothers, the welders, the librarians, the children who would grow up motherless. Humanity didn't send heroes. They sent everybody. And the aliens? They had no concept for that. On the 29th day, Earth made its first official broadcast. Simple, clear, spoken in a voice the galaxy had never heard before. Anna Callahan's. A pre-recorded message, encoded in every diplomatic frequency. She sat on a bench, hair pinned back, face calm. "I am dead," she said. "I was someone's wife. That was my crime. You killed me to provoke my husband. You wanted war. But Earth doesn't go to war like you think. We don't throw our strongest forward. We pull everyone back and wait." She smiled. Now they're done waiting. The screen went black. Across 5 alien systems, nuclear forges seized up. Fuel injectors refused to ignite. AIs froze mid-sentence. Then the stars went dark. Not literally, just in the alien minds. Their pride dimmed. Their confidence flickered. And in its place came something older. Something simpler. Dread. On Callahan's desk, a small wooden box rested beside a folded flag. He opened it now, revealing the 3 wedding rings recovered from the broadcast sites. His wife's, Elisa's, Mita's. He held them in his palm like relics. One of the junior analysts, barely 20, leaned over. "Sir, what if they surrender?" Callahan looked at the rings, then up at the galaxy. "Then we'll teach them how to mean it." He stood. "Ready, Phase 3. The officer hesitated. "We still haven't defined what Phase 3 is, sir." Callahan looked at him, the weight of humanity's fury polished into a single sentence. "We let them see the trap they already stepped in." And just then, halfway across the galaxy, an alien chancellor stared out from his palace window, watching as a strange new star blinked above the horizon, pulsing slowly. In Morse code, he turned pale, because the message wasn't war. It wasn't a demand. It wasn't even a warning. It was a name, Callahan. And that meant the house fire was no longer starting. It was already inside. The Galactic Concord had never convened a private war tribunal without Earth present, until now. But on the 32nd day after the assassinations, with 5 empires reeling and 14 planetary networks, crippled by what analysts were now calling silent human code, desperation had rewritten decorum. The meeting was held on Galactic Station, secure, fortified, and swarming with every sensor and surveillance beam the galaxy could buy or threaten into place. The structure itself shimmered with paranoia. War barons sat beside diplomats. Enemies pretended to be allies. The only thing everyone shared was a hunger for someone to blame. But there were no humans to yell at. No one had heard from Earth since the Anna Callahan broadcast. No more satellites lit up. No threats. No speeches. Only consequences. "We have to demand surrender terms," hissed the Utari Chancellor, hands trembling in his robes. "Their silence is psychological warfare, nothing more. They're bluffing." "You think this is a bluff?" growled General Vark of the Korthan Bladekin. "My son's fortress detonated from inside a gravity well. Their satellites are older than our youngest colonies, and they're aiming through our walls. They have no formal fleets, no declared allies. And yet our NAV systems read Earth vessels parked within atmospheric breach range," said a Trillax whisperer, his voice like wind through crystal. "What kind of species smiles while positioning for total annihilation?" "Humans," someone muttered. The room stilled. Then a single chime echoed across the station's main channel. Every private communicator lit up. Every screen shimmered with the same phrase. "Thank you for gathering. Please remain seated." And then he was there. Thomas Callahan. He entered alone, unarmed, dressed not in military uniform, but in civilian black. A fitted coat, slacks, scuff boots. His beard was trimmed. Eyes tired. Smile unchanged. He walked slowly to the center of the chamber, every step reverberating with the rhythm of a ticking clock. No guard stopped him. No scanners triggered. He didn't sit. "Thank you," he said, "for your attention." The room erupted in protests. "What is the meaning of this? This is not protocol. We demand a ceasefire discussion." Callahan raised one hand, palm outward. He didn't raise his voice. "You're not at war with Earth. That silenced them faster than a weapon. You're inside a consequence," he continued, calm as confession. "This isn't retaliation. It's result." A voice cracked from the shadows. Some ambassador too proud to remain quiet. "You think we'll just let you decimate our systems? Turn off our suns? Mock our defenses while sipping your barbaric tea?" Callahan tilted his head. "I don't drink tea anymore." Something in the way he said it made several stomachs turn. Another figure stood. High Chancellor Vreel of the Vrex Republic. "What do you want, Callahan?" Callahan's smile sharpened, not unkind, but surgical. Understanding. He stepped closer to the dais, hands behind his back, speaking softly. 3 wives. Not queens. Not officers. Just women. They laughed in kitchens. Sang lullabies. Kissed foreheads goodbye. That's who you executed, live, for spectacle. You took our hearts and called it theater. They were necessary sacrifices, snapped a Trillax general, instantly regretting it. Callahan looked at him for a long time. Necessary sacrifices, he repeated. Then, almost gently, you called us emotional, fragile, unfit for galactic governance, because we grieve out loud. But here's the thing about emotion, it remembers. He lifted his hand. Every light dimmed. Every console froze. And then, a single projection lit the room. The hologram showed a detailed blueprint of the entire galactic concord. Every planetary hub, every defensive grid, every deep space relay. Callahan walked into the projection. These are your systems. Every frequency, every vulnerability. Someone shouted, "That's classified." "No," Callahan said. "That's outdated." He snapped his fingers. Half the map turned red. "Those are already compromised." Another snap. Another section darkened. "These are waiting for instruction." A third snap. The final third blinked yellow. "These are wired to collapse if you attempt to retaliate." A ripple of shock swept through the chamber. Sweat formed on scaled brows. One alien fainted. Callahan turned slowly. Operation Housefire was never a war plan. It was a reveal. He reached into his coat and pulled out 3 thin objects, wedding rings. He held them out. "We sent love into the galaxy. You returned it in coffins. Now we've buried our dead. And we've set the table." He turned again to the projection and tapped a corner of the map. A new structure appeared, a satellite web no one had seen before, coiled around an invisible central point. "This," he said, "is what we actually built." The projection zoomed in. A massive space station, dead center in an uncharted sector, surrounded by folded quantum beacons. Its name scrolled in human script. Eden's Wake. Callahan continued, "We offered peace. You offered death. So we made something better than peace. We made something you couldn't find." "What is Eden's Wake?" the Corthan asked, breath shallow. Callahan looked directly at him. "A fallback, a sanctuary, and a trigger." "Trigger for what?" "For us." The projection flickered, showing rows of human children in cryostasis. Scientists, farmers, builders, preserved. Eden's Wake is humanity's inheritance. If Earth falls, they awaken. They're not trained to fight. They're trained to build something better than you. Someone rasped, "You plan to erase us?" "No," Callahan said. "You've done that yourselves." He stepped away from the hologram and looked around the room. "We didn't win a war. We proved one was unnecessary." "Then what happens now?" a young Utari delegate asked, barely able to keep her voice steady. Callahan regarded her with something close to kindness. "You leave us alone. You go home. You teach your children why you fear our silence." He stepped toward the door, pausing only once. "If you don't." He tapped his wrist. Every communicator in the room pinged with a new message. Just one word. Detonated. A gasped chorus. A Trillac screamed. The Vrex Chancellor scrambled for his comm. Callahan stood still, voice even. "No casualties. Just your defense grids. Your weapon factories. Your command AI." "But," the Utari delegate stammered, "you could have taken us all." Callahan's eyes flicked to her. "And become you?" He walked through the door, left silence behind. And then one last detail. As he vanished from their view, every screen in the chamber flickered on. Footage played, not of war, not of death, but of Anna, in her garden, laughing, holding Callahan's hand. And the final message. "You showed the stars how to kill for power. We showed them how to grieve with purpose." Back on Earth, Callahan stood at the edge of a hill, overlooking what once was Arlington, now a field of wildflowers and white stones. He knelt, placing the 3 rings into a carved hollow. Then he smiled, quiet, incomplete, but real. Behind him, Eden's Wake pulsed on the horizon, invisible to alien eyes. The trap hadn't been the station, or the code, or the silence. It was the assumption that humans had only one planet worth saving. And in the emptiness of space, thousands of alien systems blinked with sudden terror as their night skies lit with a new, steady pulse. 3 dots, 3 rings, 3 names they would never forget.